All right. So again, very disturbing those moments there. And Max Rose, your former congressman from New York, a Democrat, veteran. You were listening to what Scott said just there. What is your reaction to what we've seen unfold today?
You know, politics is so deeply emotional and personal today. And my heart really goes out to Scott, you, and everyone else in your movement who works so closely with him, because there's nothing like being in the political trenches to forge incredible bonds. And I just can't imagine the pain that everyone is going through. I would urge us, particularly in a moment like this, to both not make this political and also to not jump to conclusions. We're not aware of the political affiliation of the shooter either. We have no idea what's going on right now. And so perhaps the only slight change I would make to what you said or suggestion is that I fear for anyone who's outspoken today for their safety, for how vitriolic the world is becoming. What I would just say from a purely analytical standpoint of that horrific video is that whoever the shooter was had an opportunity to undertake a mass shooting there and did not. Fired only one shot.
David, stand by. I want to bring in a witness to the shooting, Dallin Smith. Dallin, I understand you're a former student at Utah Valley University where this apparent assassination happened. You were there with your sister. Tell us, what was the atmosphere like before the shot rang out?
Yeah, the atmosphere was buzzing. I wasn't expecting that many people to be there. You know, I wanted to go, and I wanted to be there a little bit earlier to ask Charlie a question. I wanted to have a little bit of a debate with him. But when I got there, there was thousands of people there, more than I expected. And it was buzzing. There was a lot of energy. A lot of people were smiling, calling on the phones, taking videos. Everyone seemed to be having a good time.
Where were you standing? How far were you from him? And could you make out at all the direction of where the shot may have been fired from?
The direction of the shot, no. I wasn't in the crowd, at least on the ground. There was a walkway above Charlie's kind of tent where normally, you know, on a normal day of campus, you can walk back and forth between the two buildings. But they had it taped off, and up to the degree of where it was taped off, I was on the right side, I guess the left side of his tent. And I was overlooking the entire crowd. And it was I could see basically everything. I couldn't necessarily see Charlie because his tent is kind of, you know, blocked off from all corners except for the front. But yeah, I could see everything, and I couldn't tell the direction that the shot was made out of, unfortunately.
How are you and your sister doing? This is a horrible thing to witness.
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit surreal. You know, it was, we heard two pops and we ran. And a lot of people ran with us. When I was standing by the door, kind of overseeing what was happening, some people were standing there still taking videos. So I went back out to look over the railing to see like maybe someone just did some firecrackers, something like that. But more and more people were screaming, crying, dispersing super quickly from the scene. More and more people were headed Charlie's way. And yeah, just pure craziness. And then after getting back into the building, just tons of people flooding to go outside, get away from the scene. A lot of tears, a lot of phone calls. Me and my sister, we're good for sure. We're good. You know, obviously prayers up for Charlie's family and anyone else who's a little bit shooken up. But yeah, it was definitely scary in the moment for sure.
Dallin, what kind of a law enforcement or security presence did you see when you came there and after you heard the pops? Was there a big security presence or what?
I would say it was fairly mild for the amount of people that were there. I don't know if they expected that many people. I don't know. It seemed like a little bit more than some of the other events that you can, you know, kind of watch. When I was, you know, coming through the doors of the campus, I didn't see any security. That wasn't really my impression of what was going on. I didn't see many security. I saw, you know, maybe.
Oh, we just lost Dallin Smith. Well, thank you to Dallin, and we're thinking about him and all the witnesses to this horrific event.
I do want to bring in, we have an eyewitness to the shooting who is on the phone with us, Radon Deshane. Radon, thank you very much for being willing to call in and tell us what you saw here. Can you walk us through where you were what you saw, what you heard this afternoon.
Yeah, so I was right up front. So there's a tent for Charlie and his security and whatnot and his hat. And then there was like two guardrails with a walkway between the two guardrails for the people that were going to go up and do their prove me wrong debate. And then I was right up against if I was looking at Charlie, I was off to the right center, right against the grate. And he was just on his second interview, and it was about gun control. It was a whole new transgender issue where they're talking about, maybe taking away their rights or whatnot. I'm not sure all about that, but all of a sudden I heard just one pop. Saw Charlie all of a sudden like fall. His head kind of fell back, and blood was just gushing out of his neck. And then at that point, I kind of turned my head to look uphill because it felt like it came from up behind me. And then I saw everybody dropping, so I dropped down. And then the next thing you know, they said, run. So we all took off running. So I didn't see the arrest or anything like that.
What can you tell us about kind of the mood of the event up until this point? I mean, our John Miller was just reporting that this had been apparently somewhat controversial, but clearly it had drawn a significant crowd.
Yeah, we were all having a good time. I was talking to some of the college kids around me. I'm in my 50s, so it's kind of fun to hear the younger kids' point of views with different things. And so I was just kind of talking with them. We were doing chants, like USA, Charlie Kirk, things like that. We were listening to some Queen and some Bon Jovi. Just having a good old time.
Radon, did you see any of the aftermath in terms of emergency first responders coming? Are reporting now that Charlie Kirk is in the hospital.
Okay, I'm worried about him because it looked really bad. Yeah, there was already some cops on scene. And he had security. I'm sure he had other people too that were not sure what their roles were. But as I was leaving, even running to my car, well, I briskly walked. But there was a bunch of emergency vehicles still coming in, even as I was leaving.
Radon, can you tell us a little bit about the security measures that were in place? You obviously were able to get very close to Charlie Kirk here. Did you have to go through a metal detector or anything like that?
Nope. There was none. They didn't even ask for tickets.
So this was an open event where you were able to walk up without having a ticket checked, without having your bag searched or anything along those lines?
Yep, exactly.
All right. And is there anything else, Radon, that you noticed, that you felt at this event that you think we all should know about?
I just feel that for these type of things, they need to have better security. They need to check bags. They need to have metal detectors. And that fell off when I went there.
Did you mentioned that there were some police officers on scene. Did you notice any security measures around Charlie Kirk beyond that, or did it stand out to you at all before this happened?
Yeah, he had. So I think it was probably his own security and maybe some campus security. I'm not sure who belonged to who.
Fair enough.
But,
all right.
I don't know how many and where they were all located. I mean, these were just the ones I kind of saw up in my front area.
No, of course. All right. Radon DeShane, Radon, I'm sure this was very difficult to witness. And of course, as you note, we're all worried about the condition of Charlie Kirk at this point. I want to thank you very much for bringing the information that you saw to our audience. I want to bring into this conversation our Scott Jennings, because Scott, I understand you spoke with Charlie Kirk fairly recently, actually. And this is, someone that's very close to a lot of the people who are around President Trump. This is someone, he's got 2 young kids. Can you talk a little bit about Charlie Kirk, the person, what you kind of understand him to be, and help our audience who may not be familiar with him understand why he matters?
Yeah, I did see Charlie a couple of weeks ago. He invited me to Turning Point USA, that's his organization, an event for some of their supporters in Colorado. And I went and we did a conversation. And Charlie, to many people on the right, especially a lot of young people, represents a resurgence and a rebirth of being a conservative and a young person at the same time. You know, we went through an era where, you know, a lot of young people who felt conservative or had conservative values felt alone and felt like, you know, they couldn't be public about it. And Charlie shows up and starts to organize young people, and he starts to speak out, and he becomes this inspiration for a whole generation of young conservatives. And his organization starts to build. He has these chapters on college campuses. They have recently expanded into having chapters in high schools. They have a robust and growing high school network as well. To all these young conservatives, Charlie's their guy. And Charlie bridges that gap between the older politicians and the older sort of hierarchy of our official politics and the younger, exciting grassroots